Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. Today, as we sit and wait for GPT-5, we are talking about a different company's vision for the future of AI. Meta's Mark Zuckerberg has just published a short essay on what he calls personal superintelligence. It's significant enough to have its own URL, meta.com/superintelligence, and lays out a particular vision for what the point of advanced AI should be. Now, Zuckerberg is not the only AI leader who's done one of these what the near future holds type of posts. Last fall, Anthropic's Dario Amodei wrote his essay Machines of Loving Grace, which he basically said he needed to do because for as much as people were paying attention to him about the risks of AI, he also wanted to paint a picture of what the best version of an AI future could be. More recently, we got from Sam Altman his post on the gentle singularity. And something that Altman and Zuckerberg have in common that we'll discuss further is this idea that we've crossed some fundamental threshold. Sam Altman's piece begins, "We are past the event horizon, the takeoff has started. Humanity is close to building digital superintelligence." As we'll see, Zuckerberg makes a similar argument. But before we get into the details, let's actually talk about the context into which this essay comes. Obviously, one of the big stories of the last couple of months have been these incredibly large offers that Zuckerberg and Meta have been throwing around to try to win talent from the rest of the AI research labs. Their success has at least been moderate. Altman and OpenAI continue to claim that in general, Zuckerberg has had to go kind of far down the org chart to find people who are willing to part. But he has clearly had at least some success. Recently, Meta announced a new chief scientist for the AI lab, and in general, their talent card is a lot more stacked than it was just a couple of months ago. That said, all of the reporting this week is around how Zuckerberg and Meta have recently turned their attention to former OpenAI CTO Mira Murati's new startup Thinking Machines Lab, and how that effort hasn't been all that successful. The big headline this week, in fact, was that at least one person on the TML team got a $1 billion offer and rejected it. In fact, the reporting has it that no one from TML actually left. Now, to some, this suggests that the story is that even with this much money, people are still turning Zuckerberg down. Wired reported that in addition to the $1 billion deal, most of the rest of the offers were still between $200 million and $500 million over a 4-year period, and in the first year alone, some were guaranteed to make between $50 and $100 million. Will DePuy from OpenAI writes, "The bigger story is not that Zuck is giving out $400 million offers. It's that people are turning them down. What might that mean?" Now, one kind of obvious answer is that a lot of these folks were fairly early at OpenAI or Anthropic or wherever they got their start before joining TML, and so weren't exactly in a position where that money fundamentally got them to a different stratosphere. Or maybe at least to put it more simply, they had a bunch of millions of dollars already. And yet still, there is a sense among many that there is at least a bit of a mission thing here. That it's probably not just money, but that many of these researchers are more keyed into the goal of building advanced AGI or ASI or whatever designation we want to call it these days than they were at just getting a few more commas in their net worth. And I think that this essay and the accompanying video that Meta dropped of Zuckerberg talking straight to camera about it certainly strike me as having the goal of maybe trying to fill in some of that mission orientation. It's significant enough and short enough that I'm just going to read the whole thing. Zuckerberg writes, "Over the last few months, we've begun to see glimpses of our AI systems improving themselves. The improvement is slow for now, but undeniable. Developing superintelligence is now in sight. It seems clear that in the coming years, AI will improve all our existing systems and enable the creation and discovery of new things that aren't imaginable today. But it is an open question what we will direct superintelligence towards. In some ways, this will be a new era for humanity, but in others, it's just a continuation of historical trends. As recently as 200 years ago, 90% of people were farmers growing food to survive. Advances in technology have steadily freed much of humanity to focus less on subsistence and more on the pursuits we choose. At each step, people have used our newfound productivity to achieve more than was previously possible, pushing the frontiers of science and health, as well as spending more time on creativity, culture, relationships, and enjoying life. I am extremely optimistic that superintelligence will help humanity accelerate our pace of progress. But perhaps even more important is that superintelligence has the potential to begin a new era of personal empowerment where people have greater agency to improve the world in the direction they choose. As profound as the abundance produced by AI may one day be, an even more meaningful impact on our lives will likely come from everyone having a personal superintelligence that helps you achieve your goals, create what you want to see in the world, experience any adventure, be a better friend to those you care about, and grow to become the person you aspire to be. Meta's vision is to bring personal superintelligence to everyone. We believe in putting this power in people's hands to direct it towards whatever they value in their own lives. This is distinct from others in the industry who believe superintelligence should be directed centrally towards automating all valuable work, and then humanity will live on a dole of its output. At Meta, we believe that people pursuing their individual aspirations is how we have always made progress expanding prosperity, science, health, and culture. This will be increasingly important in the future as well. The intersection of technology and how people live is Meta's focus, and this will only become more important in the future. If trends continue, then you'd expect people to spend less time in productivity software and more time creating and connecting. Personal superintelligence that knows us deeply, understands our goals, and can help us achieve them will be by far the most useful. Personal devices like glasses that understand our context because they can see what we see, hear what we hear, and interact with us throughout the day will become our primary computing devices. We believe the benefits of superintelligence should be shared with the world as broadly as possible. That said, superintelligence will raise novel safety concerns. We'll need to be rigorous about mitigating these risks and careful about what we choose to open source. Still, we believe that building a free society requires that we aim to empower people as much as possible. The rest of this decade seems likely to be the decisive period for determining the path this technology will take, and whether superintelligence will be a tool for personal empowerment or a force focused on replacing large swaths of society. Meta believes strongly in building personal superintelligence that empowers everyone. We have the resources and the expertise to build the massive infrastructure required and the capability and will to deliver new technology to billions of people across our products. I'm excited to focus Meta's efforts towards building this future. So how has the response been to this? So far, and it's not been very long, it's only been a few hours since they dropped this, the takes are kind of what you might expect. Some of them are extremely petty, with people complaining that the visual impact of the note is basically the same approach that Ilya and Safe Superintelligence took in their announcement webpage, which maybe seems like extra rub-ins given that Meta poached the CEO of SSI, who was Daniel Gross. Mostly, I think that they're trying to make a point that it's the ideas that matter here, not the presentation. Another category of response is to be inherently mistrustful of Zuckerberg's vision of the future, given how all in on the metaverse he was a few years ago, which many people perceive as being an abandoned bed at this point. Luke Thomas writes, there are a lot of images floating around of the weird blocky character-style metaverse images that were shared by Meta and Zuck just a few years ago. Another big theme was that seemingly not-so-throwaway line about open source. The line is, we believe the benefits of superintelligence should be shared with the world as broadly as possible. That said, superintelligence will raise novel safety concerns. We'll need to be rigorous about mitigating these risks and careful about what we choose to open source. Many are pointing out that this is quite different than the vision laid out in a note from just a year ago, called open source AI as the path forward. It's also worth taking a moment here to note that this is not Meta's first attempt at laying out their vision of how they're different when it comes to AI. Of course, so far, the main differentiator has been this open source approach. Many people have recently expressed skepticism, however, that that's going to be long sustainable, given that A, China has seemed to race ahead in that department, and B, that it's very clear that Zuckerberg is not content just competing to be the best open source model, he wants to build the best models, period. Now, it might be inevitable, but I do think that there is significant brand risk should Meta back away from its commitment to open source. However, for now, that's firmly in the realm of speculation, and so it's probably not worth dwelling on all that much. Some are complaining that the vision isn't grandiose enough. Transformer editor Shaquille Hashim writes, I think the most interesting thing about Zuck's vision here is how boring it is. He suggests the future with superintelligence will be one with glasses. Not nanobots, not brain-computer interfaces, but glasses. Just entirely devoid of ambition and imagination. I'll come back to that critique in just a minute. Still, overall, probably the most common skepticism, and one that's frankly, I think, reasonable, is basically a concern that Meta's business model will in some ways run at odds with the vision of the future that they're trying to suggest for. Writes Mal, sounds impressive and Meta can talk all they want about personal superintelligence. But as long as their core remains an ad-driven dopamine machine, they're the last company I'd trust with something like this. Matt Mittelstadt writes, despite reporting that superintelligence labs would be startup-esque and walled from Meta's business as usual, these goals seem deeply tied down by Meta's social media legacy and existing product line. It's hard to imagine big transformations if we don't aim at big problems. So I want to talk about a few parts of this. First of all, let's acknowledge that this starts with a very profound argument, that Meta is starting to see self-improving AI. Now, maybe it would be too easy to overstate how far they're trying to say that is, considering he's using words like glimpses of our AI systems improving themselves, but he says the improvement is undeniable. So you have here another head of one of the major labs arguing that we've passed some fundamental event horizon. Second, this piece is absolutely trying to draw a sharp line between a vision for superintelligence that's all about how you get your work done and a vision for superintelligence that's all about your life. Zuckerberg throws an elbow or two, basically arguing that his competitors just want to automate away your job, while he and Meta want you to do more of whatever it is that you do that makes you feel most fulfilled. Now, it will be, as we've already seen, very hard for some people to separate the message from the messenger here. Too many people just simply will not trust Zuckerberg and Meta with this sort of ambition. Others will understandably see fingerprints of connecting this particular vision of superintelligence conveniently to the existing product lines that Meta already has. I'm sympathetic to Zuck and Meta because the reason that they have those product lines is the reason that they would be interested in how those things are impacted by AI. But nevertheless, some people aren't going to be able to get beyond their skepticism of the financial motivation for having this particular vision. But here's something that I do think is important about this. Right now, most of our discussion about AI is about the transition and the transformation and the change. It's about how much more productive you could be doing the things you do currently, what it's going to look like to do your job in the near future with this different set of tools. Our field of vision for AI is largely this transitional period, the next few years. What these essays in general try to get at, and what I think Zuckerberg is trying to plant a flag in, is a vision for the world after the transformation. And while I don't think that this is a fully baked theory or articulation, you can see Mark here trying to tell a story about how the future should feel, and arguing in some fundamental way that it should be less about you doing more and better work, and more about you living a better and more fulfilling life, whatever that happens to mean to you. Whether you believe in this particular vision for the world after AI transformation, whether you're skeptical, like I said, of this particular messenger, I do think it's a good conversation to be having to zoom out to what we want that world to look like. It's going to be hard to design systems that serve people if we don't have a vision for what serving people in a world of plentiful, abundant, and nearly free intelligence actually looks like. Super interested to see what you guys all think about this. Use the comments on YouTube or at Spotify. Come join the Patreon, whatever. Find a way to share your thoughts. I'm sure there's going to be a wide diversity of opinions on this one. For now, that is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Appreciate you listening or watching as always. And until next time, peace.